What's going on, guys? It's your boy Anthony back with another edition of the Fourth Man podcast. Thanks again to everyone who's tuning in to this week's episode and coming off of week two, really starting to kind of understand how things are going to unfold this year. But man, what another wild week in the Big Three. We're crazy enough, a quarter of the way through two games into an 8-game season, regular season, I should say. So it was a fun one. We got 8 teams right now sitting at 1-1. We got another good episode for you here today. You probably already read the title by now. We do have Justin Dentmon, Tri-State co-captain, on the show today. He's a recurring guest. We don't have too many of those on this show, but I felt like his input was important, being that he's on one of 2 undefeated teams right now. Also, a guy that came through the undrafted route, does a lot of the behind-the-scenes work, putting this team together for his captain, Jay Rich. He's kind of gotten the keys to the car here. So felt like this was a good opportunity to bring JD back on, and I think he just did a good job representing the league. But other than that, also want to go through and recap some of the games from this past week. We'll also talk about a couple of news and notes that maybe you probably saw this past week, but just to fill you in on kind of what's going on, give you a better understanding. Going to fill you in right here. Before we get into all that, make sure you guys are following the show on all social media platforms at Fourth Man Pod. That's 4TH Man Pod. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube, youtube.com/fourthmanpod. Make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell to get all the latest updates on, well, not only just updates, but also to get visuals on the podcast, as well as any other content that we might have. Planning to go to 1, if not maybe 2, if we get lucky, games this year. So we'll try to do some live stuff while we're there, obviously. Maybe even try to do a live interview, but also to just any other content that I'm making outside of the updates, player transactions, and things like that you might see on social media. You'll find there on YouTube. And then thank you to guys at Believe Network for just giving us a platform to talk about the Big Three every week. Kind of the, I guess, producers behind the show. So we just appreciate all their support and what they try to do for not just our podcast, but all podcasts out there. And also to doing a good job giving athletes voices for, their own affiliations, whether it's with a team they used to play with or just to have their voice heard. So appreciate you guys over at Believe. That being said, let's get into the show. I think the first thing to note here, you probably saw a couple roster changes from this past week. Nothing too crazy, but a couple of Big Three vets that have played in this league for a long time, both getting a chance to play here in Season 6. So we saw Jermaine Taylor, now a part of Three-Headed Monsters. He's taken the place of Jordan Adams. I don't know if that's a season-long move or it's temporary, but as of right now, Jordan Adams is still playing over in Venezuela. He's playing for a championship right now, which is pretty wild. But what I've seen from the team he's playing for is Instagram and the schedule they've released. If Jordan is able to get all the way, Jordan and his team are all the way to get all the way through to the finals, and it goes to the extension of games that they have, that could last until July 10th. That's week 4. So might be a little bit tough to come and help. You don't even know where Three-Headed Monsters are going to stand at that point. So seeing how they were shorthanded a week prior, they brought in a vet, Jermaine Taylor, who has showcased what he can do in this league for a long time. He looked even healthier the other day, just kind of feeling himself out, but I think he's taken some of those ISO Joe yoga classes there. But Jermaine looked really good. It's always good to see him back in the league. He's, I think, one of the, Trailblazers, original members of the Big Three. So it's always good to see him. Another original member and a guy who's joining his old team is Jamario Moon. So Jamario is making his second stop with triplets after making his second stop with Three-Headed Monsters last year. And I feel like all this guy does is contribute to winning. He obviously helped triplets win in 2019. And then last year helped Three-Headed Monsters get to the championship game, get to the playoff game. And I think he was a key piece in helping him get there in terms of depth and just adding another experienced veteran player on your team. But he got a little bit more run than Jermaine this past week and looked pretty good. He had this crazy shot late in the game. I forgot who was over. I think it might have been Rashard or Reggie Evans, but had this crazy fadeaway jumper. And just good to see both those guys back in the league. So Jamario is taking the place of Gennaro Pargo, who is a coach with the Indiana Pacers. And I believe he's going to be either the head coach or an assistant coach with the Pacers Summer League team, which is coming up. So again, I'm not sure if that move is indefinite or Gennaro will come back at some point, seeing that he's been on this triplets team, a staple of this team for a long time, helped them win a championship as well. But for the time, and seeing as he's also a co-captain of this team, but for the time being, he's obviously trying to kind of transition into a new career and be a coach. He's with the Blazers, not with the Pacers. So best of luck to you, Gennaro. Mario's a good fit there. I think they have pretty good, lengthy sized team there with a lot of experience, older guys, I think, but guys that know how to get their spots and score and are still going to be a dangerous team in this league. So those are the only news and notes. They're also going to be in New York, playing at the Barclays Center on Sunday on the July 10th. So they'll be playing in New York. There's a ton of things going on from an owner's perspective. I think a lot of the NFT owners of different teams are getting together in New York. So make sure you're following all the teams and make sure you're following all the owners, whatever the case may be. If I'm sure they're going to be inviting different members of not only the Big Three community, but people that are just showing up for the Big Three games to different events. I've seen like a party. I've seen a get together. So might be a good opportunity to follow a lot of those teams on Instagram or Twitter, maybe not Twitter with everything else going on, but make sure you're following Instagram so you can maybe attend one of those things. It looks like it's going to be a really good time. I wish I was going to be there personally, but New York could be one of the craziest weeks of the season. So if you're there, make sure you take advantage is all I'll say. Those are really the only news and updates I have for this week's. In terms of recapping last week's game for week 2, like I mentioned already, 2 undefeated teams currently with Tri-State and Ghost Ballers both moving to 2-0. Got 8 1-1 teams, and then Three's Company and Aliens still yet to get their first win on the season. Aliens actually had a chance to really make this thing interesting. They had a chance to make 10 teams 1-1, and in Three's Company and Tri-State 2-0, or I'm sorry, 0-2 and 2-0 respectively. But Ghost Ballers came through and advanced to 2-0, I think for their third straight year. But let's talk about Three's Company and their game against Killer Threes, in a game that felt like, for the most part, Killer Threes had control of. They looked really good last week against a really good Tri-State team. It was just a matter of them not necessarily being able to close it out, but looked really good in this one. Franklin Nitty looks like he is just in complete control. Dante Green got back to kind of his play, being that leading scorer on the team, putting up 19.7 boards, got great contributions all around from Josh Powell, from Dominique Johnson, who hit a crazy shot in that game, by the way, maybe should have been an and one, and then Javier Carter getting his first points in the Big Three. He looked really good as well in his time, in his play in that game. So overall, this is looking like a Killer Threes team that we knew was going to be a grit and grindy type of team and continue to just battle in order to get some of these wins. And they did so again. They did so again this week, as we've seen them do in past seasons. I mean, this is a tough team. I want to call him Franklin Session and Frank Nitty at the same time, but Frank Nitty looked really good. 10 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists. He looks like he just has like a full go of this well-oiled machine, and he's going to do anything you can to get you extra buckets, extra possessions. Make sure he finds his teammates, and he does it each week, each week in and out. And not only that, he went back home the next day and dropped 50 in the Drew League on the 50th anniversary of the league or something like that, or I'm not sure the exact significance, but it was the 50th anniversary or 50th game, or I guess it's the anniversary, but none of that matters. He dropped 50 points the next day. So just some pretty incredible stuff in what he's doing. It looks like he's just in a good mindset, having a lot of fun, and really looking to will this team to try to get back into the playoffs. But this team goes as Dante Green goes, and his ability to score and kind of lead that team from a scoring perspective, hitting shots and getting to the basket. And he looked like himself doing that. On the flip side, Three's Company, tough hole to be in, 0-2. I mean, this is a team that just had a hard time, really finding the rhythm last game. And ultimately, it kind of felt like the game was – they made a run late and tried to make this one a little bit close, but it felt like the game was kind of more away from them than they had wanted to. I'm really surprised that this team is 0-2. I mean, last year, I get it, first year for a couple of these guys, finding that chemistry. But this year, I'm just shocked. They played 2 good teams. They kind of let go of that win against Ghost Ballers. I think they had that one in the bag, and unfortunately, some things came into shambles late. And then this one, it just felt like they never got to the start they wanted to, and ultimately, it's going to be hard to catch up with this Killer Threes. But if any team is going to come out of that 0-2 hole, I think it can be this Threes Company team. It just has to be starting next week. It's just unfortunate that, they have some time to work with, or they don't have a ton of time to work with. At some point it's going to be cut to only 8 teams, and pretty much have to. I hate to say it, but you pretty much have to win out here unless you have some things go your way. I mean, we do have 8 1-1 teams, I guess, is the good news. I'm sure they were hoping Aliens would win to maybe cut that to 10 teams and really give themselves an opportunity. But, there will be some teams that are fighting next week that are at 1-1, and one of those teams will have to go to 1-2. So we'll see. I think it's just about getting everybody collectively playing well at the same time. I think we saw a really good game from Hollis Thompson, but we didn't see the same game that we saw from week 1 from Brandon Rush. So it's just about getting everybody on the same page. Some things could have gone differently, obviously, but I think this team will be all right. You have Michael Beasley and Mario Chalmers kind of heading this team. So as long as you got those guys, I think they can come back and make this thing competitive still. Game 2 of the day, and both these games on CBS, by the way, weren't necessarily the games of the week that we were expecting. Tri-State and Power was a really good first half, but Tri-State took over in the second half, pretty much had their foot on the gas. Jason Richardson dropped 29 points in this game. Deshawn Stevens looked really good in his second game. I know it was a little bit of a transitionary period and didn't necessarily have the best turnout in week 1, but he had 18 points and 8 boards. And his second game was Tri-State really playing his own game. And really, they just kind of found their groove in the second half with a 3-man rotation of him, Richardson, and then Justin Dentmon, who will be on the show, talk about that game a little bit later. And ultimately, it just kind of made sense to continue to step on the gas and put Power away. Power's a gritty team, too, a team that's always going to be able to come back. So they end up winning this one 52-32. Maybe the score is not necessarily indicative of the performance. I mean, don't get me wrong, strong first half by Tri-State, but I think Power was definitely, Justin mentions it as they were butting heads at some point in the game, and they were having their own internal challenges, trying to figure out what was going on and how to get back into it. And ultimately, they just ran out of time. So wouldn't take too much from it other than the fact that Tri-State is like a really good team, a team to watch out for. But Power got hot late in the year last year, which ultimately propelled them to a playoff berth. So wouldn't be like, oh, Power's one of the worst teams now. They lost by 20. No, they just had a tough second half, couldn't find shots, couldn't make shots. They'll get right back on track. They have one of the best coaches in the league and Nancy Lieberman. And just one of those games. It was unfortunate. But ultimately, the biggest takeaway is Tri-State. This is a team that I thought was one of the better teams coming into the year because of their versatility, because of how deep this team is. Really, you're not missing a beat when you're putting different guys in. And so it's a really good team. Showcasing that early on at 2-0. Power is 1-1 on the year. The next game was probably the game of the day. We had Enemies and Ball Hogs, and Enemies won 51-49, and really a crucial game for them. They needed to get to a 1-1 start. It's kind of the same as last year. I don't know if Elijah will go end up playing for a summer league this year, but really strong contributions for the past 2 weeks from Jordan Crawford. He's been one of the guys who have really impressed me in this league this year, I should say. But Enemies really had control of that first half. They kind of allowed Ballhogs to come back into it, and from there it was pretty back and forth. I'm not sure if Leandro Barbosa had some kind of maybe cramp or bruising in his leg, but it felt like at one point Rick Barry was trying to help him help him try to rub out maybe one of those bruises in his leg, because it was like maybe he was hurting a little bit. But nonetheless, big contributions all about. Jody Meeks has also been someone very impressive. He's top 3 in scoring right now. But just a battle between these teams. There's really not much more to say. These teams really couldn't get away from each other. And even down the stretch, I mean, Isaiah Austin had a chance to end that at the free throw line. They couldn't. Ball Hawks took advantage, and it was a 49-49 game before Jordan Crawford basically ended it with the runner off the backboard. But 2 really strong teams. I mean, I think that we're Enemies is definitely impressed a little bit more this year. I mean, Jordan Crawford's been great, but the whole team just looks locked in and focused. Even Gil, not saying that maybe in the past he hasn't been, but Gilbert Arenas is a guy who's enjoying his time, having fun coaching. But I think he's taken it a little bit more serious this year, and the results are translating early. This is a really strong team. Elijah looked good. Isaiah Austin looked good. Then on the flip side, Ball Hogs, I mean, maybe they felt like one slipped away from them, a chance to go 2-0, 2 teams that are fighting for that first playoff berth in franchise history. But this is a big year for Ball Hogs. They really wanted to make that happen. So, it was unfortunate things didn't necessarily go their way, but I still think really strong team. Like as long as Barbosa is healthy, Jody Meeks continues to play the way he is, I think they'll be all right. DeJuan's kind of trying to find his exact role in this offense. He's going to be a scorer for them. It's just a matter of just picking his spots. I think ultimately is what he's trying to do. Jeff Ayers looked really good, so I think this will. Everything's matchup based, but really the matchups are going to be important for a team that's long and lengthy like them, where they have Jalen Johnson, Jeff Ayers, and DeJuan Summers, all big bodies. It's just about playing which couple of guys on the floor. But at the end of the day, I think you're going to see a lot of Leandro and Jody. So just picking the right matchups there. But nonetheless, both teams are 1-1 on the year. And actually, Ball Hogs would be a playoff team right now if the season ended today. I think based off points against. They have the least points against right now. So that's the good news for Ball Hogs. Games have been competitive and tight. And as long as you're doing that, I think you put yourself in a good position. I would say the best performance of the day came in our game of triplets and trilogy, where triplets won 50-42, but I think triplets, they had trilogy's hand in this one. They were shooting the ball really well. Mainly, one guy was shooting the ball really well, and Jeremy Pargo. We already talked about Gennaro. Jeremy Pargo, who had the season high and league high 31 points in this game, started off early like it was going to be a big day for it, and he followed it up in the second half with an even bigger performance. Hit 2 fours early in the game, had 16 at half, had 15 in the second half, and just really, I think really what the triplets needed. And I think you got to be encouraged if you're Lisa Leslie and Joe, because Joe was early, like week 1, shot 31 times last year. The bulk of the load was on him. In seasons past, it's been like that. So being able to find, not necessarily the second option. I know Jeremy says a lot that like we just need to be able to help Joe. So not necessarily deferring to Joe. I think Jeremy can be the 1B guy. He's a guy that can get a bucket for you at any point. One of the most lethal scorers in this league. So it's just a matter of, again, figuring out the right time. But when, I think Joe said it best, when he's hot, why would you continue to not give it to him? He's got the hot hand. He's playing really well, makes his job a lot easier. And then the addition of Larry Sanders has been a good one for him. I mean, you have a real defensive presence in that paint, and then Jamario Moon, championship pedigree, a guy who's been on this triplets team and won it with them. He kind of knows how to play around Joe and what Lisa Leslie wants. So good addition. And then we barely got to see Damian Wilkins just yet. So I think he's going to be another solid, a solid piece when it's the right game for him. I think he'll get a chance to show that a little bit more. So triplets taking down the defending champs in trilogy. I think they get one. I think it was just a good day from triplets shooting the ball wise. I think for trilogy, it wasn't necessarily the case. I saw Earl miss more shots than I'm used to seeing. I don't feel like Isaiah was as aggressive as maybe he typically is. I mean, he's been a great jump shooter. He's leading the league in 3-pointers made, but usually just a little bit more aggressive and getting to the cup. Didn't feel like necessarily he did that as much in this game. Still a good game from him, 17 points. Earl had 16, maybe 18, can't remember exactly. But, nothing to fret about. You play against a good triplets team. You just have to know that. I mean, they probably know this. I mean, Stack has probably told them this. They got the target on their backs. They're the 3-time champions, 2-time defending champions, and teams are going to be gunning for them. So, I think Trilogy's got a big matchup against Power and a rematch of the championship game from last year, and we'll see how they go against it. But for now, both teams at 1-1. And 2 more teams that are at 1-1. 3-Headed Monsters getting their first win over Bivouac. I'm sorry, this was the worst game of the day. Both the teams struggled to really find their offense, find their groove. It was physical. It was a battle to get this win, but ultimately 3-Headed Monsters winning 51-39. Bivouac struggled to shoot the ball. 3-Headed Monsters really struggled to shoot the ball at times, but they were able to will them way through with 18 points from Kevin Murphy, which doesn't feel like a lot for him, but that's a pretty average day for him at the office. But I think the biggest contributor was Rashard Lewis, 17 points, 11 rebounds, being just a little bit more aggressive and trying to continue to be a big contributor for this team like he's been since year 1. I think they were saying that last week he was just being a little bit more conservative. And so this week it was about making sure that he shot the ball more, got more opportunities. And sure enough, he did his thing. I thought Robert Dozier looked a little bit more comfortable in week 2. So you're feeling good about three-headed monsters. On the flip side for Bivouac, they I think part of their slow start was in the way that they started the game. I mean, not to say it was a bad idea to start Garland and John Jordan, let John get a little bit of a run in the big three if he's going to be, that fifth piece on your team. Get him adjusted to the game a little bit. But it kind of led to a slower start. They were down 8-0 early, and while they did come back and take the lead at some point in the game, it just felt like that was an opportunity to maybe not get behind so much, ultimately leading to maybe a closer score at the end. And, they got hot late last week. They couldn't necessarily do the same, but I think Bivouac will be all right. I think it was just a tough day at the office for them. But on the flip side, you got to feel good for three-headed monsters, a team that is still gunning for that first championship. And, you're starting to see Reggie Evans, his physical play. You probably saw it in week 1, but you're starting to see him get comfortable. I mean, he's not only being physical, but he's shooting jumpers now he's just shooting a bunch of middies, and he's making a bunch of middies, kind of from that free throw line area from the elbow. So that's encouraging, kind of space the floor a little bit more with Reggie and make him a little bit more of a threat from just outside of that paint. But then, Rashard being more aggressive, Murphy, he was unbelievable last year. He can take over a game at any point. I think just overall, it was just a tough day shooting for both teams, and three-headed monsters had the better shooting day. So we'll see. And then getting Jermaine a little bit more comfortable, a strong backcourt, I think, that they have right now. And once he's caught up to speed, I think this could be, the same old dangerous three-headed monsters team that we're used to. So we'll see. The last game of the day is Ghost Ballers and Aliens. I got to be honest. I thought Ghost Ballers was going to run away with it early. They were up 13-4. It didn't look like Aliens had really found their shot. And they didn't really feel like it was going to be – I don't know if it felt like maybe they weren't just locked in, but it just felt like it was going to be a tough day for them. And Ghost Ballers was really eager to get this one and get out of there as quick as possible. Aliens battled, though. This was actually a really good back-and-forth game. One of the better games of the day, except for late in the game, there was a huge call where the game was tied at 39, and Tucson Bullet was going against Darnell Jackson one-on-one. Darnell, I don't know if he stepped on his toe or Tucson got caught up on his foot, but ultimately it looked like it was a pretty aggressive play, and the call wasn't made. They got an easy layup. Tucson got pissed and got a technical. 4-point swing there and the ball back for Ghost Ballers. I think that ultimately changed the whole momentum of the game, but it was a huge call. Nonetheless, for Ghost Ballers, this is a team that they look really good. I mean, I said this last week. I was pretty surprised. I wasn't pretty surprised, but I was I came away from the week a lot. I came away from the week last week very impressed. Let's put it that way. And I come away this week kind of feeling the same. I mean, Mike for a long time has kind of needed a little bit of help as a guard and someone that can play kind of like him, defend multiple positions, especially on the wing, can create his own shot, can take a little bit of the load off of him as a ball handler. And I think he has really found that in Jonathan Simmons. He's been a great complementary piece to him. Not only that, this is a really good rebounding team. We know they have a ton of size. They go big a lot. And we've seen this work in the past with Power when they went big in season 2 late in the year, and they had multiple bigs to kind of go different options with. And it was really successful for them to the point where they won a championship. And we're kind of seeing that same makeup with Ghost Ballers. Darnell Jackson, Chris Johnson, who looked a lot less jet lagged this week and just really kind of back to his normal self. And then Chuck Garcia, who is making a strong case for Rookie of the Year right now. He looks really good. And this is just a team that's they're going to be hard-nosed every week. They're going to be physical. They're going to try to get every possession. If they miss shot, they're going to get extra possessions. They're going to defend hard. They're going to make tough shots, and they're going to find their mismatches. They're very skilled. This is a team that just is really well put together right now. And arguably, at 2-0, I guess it makes sense because Devin and Tri-State are the only undefeated team, but arguably the best team in the league right now. This is a really good looking Ghost Ballers team after 2 weeks. And I'm just really impressed with what I see. I think this team can go far. I don't know if it's a hot take because they are off to a 2-0 start, but I kind of want to like cement them in as like they will make the playoffs this year. Like this will be the year. We've seen them get off to 2-0 starts, 3-0 starts, 5-1 starts, whatever the case may be. And some things have unfolded and didn't go their way, and ultimately that led to them not making the playoffs. This is the year they're going to make the playoffs. I'm just going to lock that in, hold myself accountable. This is the year Ghost Baller makes the playoffs. I really like what they're doing. I think they're very versatile. I think they're all very skilled players. I think Jonathan Simmons is the big X factor here. And we get the same Mike Taylor year in and year out. A lot of energy, a guy who can score the ball, tough defender, going to give you his all. And I think as a captain, his first year as captain, he's done a really good job of putting this team together. And I think him, George Gervin, are going to get back to the playoffs this year. On the flip side, for Aliens, I still think things feel a little discombobulated. They played really well. Giannis Tima seems to be another guy who could be going for Rookie of the Year. I know people say he shoots a lot, but hey, he makes a lot of shots. Like, you can't argue that. He makes a lot of shots. He opens up the floor. He had 21 points. There's one play where, two guys literally ran after him on an inbound play, and Tony Cruz was at the paint just with the open layup. He creates a lot of attention. And so I think he is up for that Rookie of the Year spot as well. But it's just been kind of a struggle, and I don't think they've necessarily figured out how they want to play in certain lineups. For instance, when you have Will Bynum out there, it's kind of tough because he's a smaller guy. We saw Jonathan Simmons post him up 3 times and score on him 3 times. And on the flip side, on offense, he's more of a ones guy, a guy that's going to get you a bucket one-on-one. And we saw that, but how much offense can you exchange for defense, if any, right now? And then how does the rest of your team, or what lineups, what guys do you want out there to make sure you complements that style of play better? On the flip side, you have Deshawn, who last year we saw a lot of movement, a lot of passing, a lot of chemistry. And I feel like when it's Deshawn and Ivoshev, it's like, who do you add as that third piece? Like, yes, Giannis has been good for them, but then you play maybe a little bit different with Tony. He can go get you more baskets, but maybe he doesn't play necessarily the same way as Tima does. So it's like they're trying to figure out some things. Also, like, Deshawn hasn't shot his best. This has not been a team that's shot the 3-ball well like we're used to last year when they had Las Manas, where last week they only made 3 threes and they all came from one guy. So you're still trying to figure out some things. There's also the huge question mark of Kostia Mushidi, who, from as far as I know, is expected to play. It's just a matter of when you can get him over here. And at 0-2, you're hoping he gets over here in New York by Sunday, because there's not a lot of time left. And at what point do you kind of cut the strings and roll with the guys you have? It has been 2 weeks, and I believe after 2 weeks you can make changes to your team. So maybe this is where they do that. Like, changes to your team in the sense that you have 5 guys on your roster, you can't drop anybody until after those 2 weeks and pick up somebody else. So maybe they do that. Like, I'm not going to blame this on any one person. I just feel like there's just some struggles that we've seen, and we're not seeing the same Aliens team that's moving the ball, taking advantage of more mismatches, finding cuts backdoor or from a different angle, be able to create some open shots on a flare screen or popping up from the paint. So I think they're trying to figure it out. We'll see what they do. We'll see what moves they make. But Aliens at 0-2, again, like a team that made the playoffs last year, that runs a good system. Like, they just need one good game, and I think they'll find themselves again. I think they're just having a hard time finding success, and it's leading to some struggle. So we'll see what happens there. Ultimately, that's kind of the recap I have for this week. Let me just look up the matchups for this week. Last week I did that, and they switched it up on me like extra fast. I thought, like, even talking to Akil last week, I thought they were playing Trilogy, and they ended up playing Tri-State. So I don't know. I don't know if everyone else was thrown off by that. I don't even know if the teams were thrown off by that. Seems like that could be a possibility. This week we got a rematch of the title game, which we were supposed to have last week. Trilogy and Power, Triplets and Tri-State, 3-Headed Monsters, and Threes Company. Enemies Bivouac, Aliens Killer Threes, and Ghost Ballers and ball hogs. Ooh, aliens, that's tough. Trilogy power. I'm trying to think. It's a lot of different type of size this year. Trilogy, I'm going to say Trilogy gets back to their winning ways. Power still, I mean, not Power still struggling, but I think Power does drop a second straight. Tri-State triplets, I really like what Tri-State's doing. I think they get to 3-0. Three-headed monsters and Three's Company. I'm going to say Three's Company gets their first win. I just really I find it hard to believe they're going to be 0-3, kind of the same thing with Bivouac last year. Find it hard to believe that they were 0-4 at any point, or 0-3. So I'm going to say Three's Company gets the win over Three-Headed Monsters. I think it's going to be physical. It could be heated. You got Reggie Evans. You got Michael Beasley in there. So we'll see how it goes. Enemies and Bivouac. It's tough. It's really tough. But I think I like Bivouac better in this one slightly, maybe. I feel like maybe it's going to be dependent on how Garland Green plays, but I really like the defensive prowess of Corey Brewer and what he's been doing. I think Gerald Green struggled last week. I don't think he does that again. I think Enemies has a ton of shot makers, but I think Bivouac can match him. I just like Bivouac in this one. I think just from a little bit more defensive standpoint on the wing. I think Corey Brewer and Garland Green, I think, are pretty good defenders. I think they're going to cause some problems there. Killer Threes and Aliens. I really like Aliens. Big fan of Deshawn Bullet and Evo Shev and those guys. I'm going to go with Killer Threes, though. And I just think that Killer Threes they look a little bit different than they have in years past. They look like they're on a mission to get back to the playoffs. And I think they do so. Dante looked really good. Frank Nitti looks like one of the top players in this league. And he only put up 10 points, but it's not all about points, at the end of the day. Like, he looks like he's on a different mission this year. I like Killer Threes over Aliens. Unfortunately, Aliens drops 0-3. And then Ghost Ballers and Ball Hogs. Man, I just called Ghost Ballers the best team in the league. And then they play a Ball Hogs team who I think is pretty good too. Both teams with a lot of size. I don't know. I've been really impressed by Ghost Ballers. I've been really impressed by kind of the two-guard combination of Mike Taylor and Jonathan Simmons. I'm going to lean Ghost Ballers, but I would not be shocked if Ball Hogs won. But I'm going to lean Ghost Ballers. I'm really impressed with what Jonathan Simmons is doing. I feel like we didn't get to see enough of that last year, him on Three-Headed Monsters briefly and playing alongside the MVP and Kevin Murphy. I feel like he just feels like he's got a different – he obviously has a different role, but I feel like he has like a different – like they're just allowing him to do a little bit more and play a little bit more freely. And I really like what he's been able to do because of it. So I'm going to go with Ghost Ballers over Ball Hogs in that one. And we'll see how all those things hold up. But appreciate everyone who tuned into this half of the episode. I'm going to stop talking now, and let's get to our interview with Tri-State co-captain Justin Dentmon. So today we got a recurring guest on the show. It's been a minute, but we got Tri-State co-captain Justin Dentmon. He's also the founder of The Run, which hosts pro basketball players there in Texas. JD, appreciate you being back on the show. 2-0 Tri-State. Got to be feeling pretty good.
Man, thank you for having me. But yeah, it's always feel good out there winning, back and worry about, guys pointing fingers at each other, so it's good.
Yeah, trying to get back on top, because if you kind of think about it, when you first joined Tri-State, you were undrafted, then you made a name for yourself, but you were fitting into a team that was guard heavy, very successful, doing well, and you really made a name for yourself, helped that team get to the #1 seed and get to the playoffs. So it's kind of like you got the richest story early, and then last year was a little bit of a battle with guys in and out, and then kind of back to where you guys were probably expecting to be last year if some things went some different ways. But also, since we last talked, you started The Run. I want to talk a little bit about that, because I kind of feel like, in a sense, it's a bunch of big three guys, almost like a combine getting ready for the big three. Talk can you, just for our listeners that don't know, talk a little bit about the run, and then also too, how much do you feel like it's evolved since you first started, maybe what, a year ago?
Yeah, so we started the idea because guys were just coming and just playing, and we just letting anybody come. And I was like, man, we can make this a sanctuary for us pros to stay in shape for the next upcoming season. And I got the name. I'm like, bro, we run. That's what we do. We go play the basketball. So I'm gonna just call it the run. And everybody like, yeah, that's a dope name. So I just call it the run. Everybody else got their own names in Dallas, but I don't do the run or have games if we don't have bigs.
Mm-hmm.
It defeats the purpose. You go out there and play ISO one-on-one. If you have bigs, you have screen and roll, reads. It's a little bit better. We go to 125, and I only let 14 guys come, so it's kind of like private. And you have 2 teams of 7, and you have every 25 as a sub. So I think that a lot of guys like that. You get a game feel. You get, even if you sub in, you sub out twice, you still get 75 points. That's pretty good. So it's evolved a lot now because now we're starting to post more on social media and guys starting to recognize it more. And eventually I'm going to try to, make it bigger than it is. I don't want to spill the beans just yet, but there's some things coming for the run that's going to make it even better.
Okay. Fair enough, not spilling the beans. I'm about to ask you, where do you think that next level is? Maybe thoughts on maybe like a summer pro-am league at some point, but make it super exclusive.
It's in the woodworks. I wouldn't count that out, but it's in the woodworks. I just, right now, just trying not to step on different toes,
right?
Burn bridges at the moment. Just trying to feel things out and see where I can fit in.
Yeah, I think I see a lot of your teammates from the Big Three, a lot of guys you go against in the Big Three, but also guys kind of getting ready for their own season, whether it's overseas, summer league, NBA. I mean, I saw Emmanuel Mudiay there a few times, so it seems like the competition level is growing a lot too.
The competition level has grown a lot. And a lot of guys, I don't mind being the bad guy, and I tell guys all the time, like, man, this is a sanctuary for us pros. So you can't, I wouldn't mind you coming every day, but other guys want to come too. So some days will be a Monday, Wednesday guys. Then I have my Tuesday, Thursday guys. And then Friday is kind of like a coin flip because, people be going out of town. But so you get a different variety of guys each day because if you go every day, everybody won't get the opportunity to play.
Yeah. I saw this post you made one day where you're like, if you don't have a pro ballers profile, then there's not a chance you can show up.
No disrespect to any guys that
for sure.
I be telling guys all the time, like, man, it's no disrespect, but if you look at my roster of guys coming, who you want me to kick off this list for you guys? You know what I mean? And there's going to be some days where we need guys to come in. They come in and step in, prove themselves. Like we got a guy named Brandon, and we call him Mr. Athletic. Works hard. I'm telling you, hard as hell. And he came in and proved himself. People ask, like, where is he at? We want him back in the run, and we asked him to come back.
But how much is that too? Just like getting guys prepared mentally for like their own, own endeavors off the court. I mean, for you, you're someone that like has played at a lot of different places at a lot of different levels, and it wasn't always easy just to get into anywhere you wanted it to be. How much is it like kind of like setting them up for?
It's almost like being a big brother.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Mentorship. I'm trying to mentor these guys and try to help them because I'm like, look, I get everybody want to play and get their run in, but we also, learning from this. We don't want to build bad habits. Right. I mean, work on your stuff, but at the end of the day, compete to win, and that's how you're gonna make everybody else better.
Yeah, I feel like too, it's just like you don't always get told yes, which is kind of you're not being the bad guy, you're just being realistic, and you want them set expectations right,
Well, I tell them how it is, man. I don't want to sugarcoat anything because I don't want to lie to them, and then they see that it's different on the other side. What's the guy that Larry? He asked me a question every day. He said, "Question of the day." He asked, "Have I already asked?" And I answer it, and we go off there.
Yeah, and overseas, I mean, they're a lot more brutal than you probably are. So
a lot more brutal. You know what I mean? These guys, they don't understand
that. Not yet. All right, let's talk about the Big Three and your team. Let's start from the beginning because I kind of, you know me, I'm always kind of scoping Instagram and Twitter. And I saw you talking to Deshawn a little bit when the Big Three announced that they were coming back. And that was my early indication that, okay, JD's making some moves because you're pretty much the GM on this team. I know Jay Rich lets you do a lot of that on the back end. But I saw you and Deshawn kind of talking. So let's first talk about bringing in Deshawn. Obviously, he had an all-star season with the Big Three last year. Pretty much made the Aliens team go, probably led them to the playoffs. What's kind of the backstory in getting Deshawn in? And ultimately, what were you hoping that he would bring to the table?
So before I get on that, man, shout out to Nate. Nate, the one that made it possible for me to be on this team. and to jump into the captain spot. So him and Jay
Mhm.
Rich kind of been that thing. And yes, Jay Rich gave me the keys to kind of go scout guys. Cause I've been around a lot of guys. I
Mhm.
brought this to him after the All-Star game. I like, hey, this is a possibility that we can get Deshawn. He's played well. He's guarded multiple positions. He's a perfect fit for us. What do you think
Yeah.
about possibly bringing him on? He's always a no-brainer. Bring him on. And I think that's to kind of set the foundation. Because I asked Deshawn, I said, hey, man, we got chemistry. We played together in Denmark, played together on in the TBT and Challenge ALS. This can be some good. We want the same thing. We got, it's always good to have guys in the locker room that's goofy, willing to laugh and giggle, but then on the court, ready to put in work. And he's one of those guys. And I'm like, is aliens bring you back as a captain? He's like, no. I'm like, well, stay by your phone because we about to make moves. And that's what happened. Dr. J was on board because he coached them in the All-Star. So they was already on board. So once I approached him, he was already leaning towards us. And he was like, yeah, that's a no-brainer. We're going to come in.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a perfect swipe there. I think Aliens was in a tough position. They weren't sure if Carlos was going to come back. And then Carlos ended up not coming back because he had an opportunity in China. So then they're kind of scrambling as you guys already made the move. But for Deshawn, I mean, they talk a lot about Aliens being like the EuroLeague team and they have to bring the European flair and whatnot. But like Deshawn, I just felt like the biggest thing about him is that how adaptable he was to that team. I mean, he's playing on a team that wants to play a certain way, and Deshawn fit in like it was nothing. And like I said,
he can fit on any team. He can fit in on any team. He can shoot. He can drive. He can post, rebound, and most important, he's a live threat. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
On defense, he can switch every position and hold his own on defense. So I think him being so versatile really helps us in what we're trying to do. And then add Ebanks to me. I wanted Ebanks the first year, but Summers was killing at the combine. We couldn't pass up on him. You know what I mean? So Ebanks was like, I'm looking at him like, man, I need another Earl. Earl was that guy that first year. Ebanks kind of the same height, can kind of do the same. I ain't gonna say the same, but damn near close.
Yeah.
I like we need that. And then Ray, attitude, veteran leadership, everything he brings to the table for us, man, is outstanding. He had experiences in playing 3-on-3 overseas, so that helped. And the coaches love, Ray.
Yeah, 100%. I think he made his case too at the end of last year playing in that game. But sure. I just feel like, yeah, for first off, you've done a great job as a GM. I mean, you brought in Earl, then you brought in DeJuan, who went #1. You got a co-captain or a guy who was a co-captain, a guy who went #1, and then you got Ebanks this year. I was going to ask you going into the draft, what was kind of the strategy or the mentality now that you fit Deshawn into the team? I mean, you got Ebanks and Ray, but were they the two guys at the top of your board, or what were you hoping to bring in to add to your team?
So Jason he kind of had his list. I told him, like, look, I'm gonna go off what you go off, and I'm gonna kind of give you what I think that'll fit us. He had some names in there. He had Quincy Miller in there. We had Dominique Johnson in there, who's a really good friend of mine, who I thought that'd be.
I thought you would get him.
You take me and him out, you lose nothing with Dom. Strong guard, can shoot the ball, handle the ball very well. Quincy, he can stretch forward, who can shoot the ball very well, very long, kind of, similar to the height we want to get, so we're switching everything. We had Julian Wright was on our board also, another guy who can play the game at a high level, experience, big, who can switch everything. And that was kind of where we was going. We knew we wanted Ray. We really wanted Ray and Summers back, but we knew Summers wasn't going to.
Yeah, no chance.
And so we knew that guys really wasn't going to look at Ray like we did. So we knew Ray was going to be available. So we was going to take Ray in a second, no matter what.
I like that. For Devin, he obviously made a huge impact in that first game, but I was surprised y'all didn't take Dom because you had a chance to not only pick him at 7, but then also take him in front of his old team that killed 3. Just,
Right. Jason was like, if Quincy wasn't available, then Ebanks is our next. And if Ebanks is not available, then we take Dom.
Okay.
And the crazy thing, story about that, Ebanks wasn't even in the pool. I added him that day because Ebanks the stuff he didn't put it in time. So I was like, hey, we got to add Ebanks. So they added him. Boom, we selected him, and now we talk about is things we want to do for the next game. We don't look too far ahead. Everybody's saying that at the next game, who's next in front of us? Our next baby step. You know what I mean? Because teams that look too far ahead tend to hit a wall early. And when I wanted it last year, we went 3 straight, won 3 straight, then we lost 3 straight. So it's like we don't want to fall to that fumble that ball no more.
Well, let's not look ahead. Let's reflect a little bit. Beat killer threes. Just put a whipping on power. talk about the Killer Threes game real quick because you bring Deshawn in, you're kind of maybe feeling out the chemistry a little bit. Deshawn wasn't necessarily the most impactful guy that was new to your team, though. It was Devin. He fit in like it was nothing for him. Obviously, experienced player, played in the NBA. But what did you see from the first week that made you feel like pretty confident about the makeup of this team when you guys beat a really good Killer Threes team?
The way that we, like I said, we so versatile. The group we went with Jason, Deshawn, and Ebanks. So they switched everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So with that lineup, like I said, it could be anybody night. And that night was Ebanks night. Deshawn kind of went in thinking post. I'm like, bro, play your game. And he's like, you're right, man. I'm gonna do what I do. So that's what happened in the second game.
Yeah.
He was just being himself. I said, and I emphasize this now more than I did the first game. Hey, most importantly, be yourself, man. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, you're going to fail being yourself. At least you're going to be mad at yourself. Don't fail being something somebody wants you to be. And like I said, Deshawn went out there and did his thing. Evan did his, Ebanks did his thing the first game. And then, Jason's
unreal.
And we always emphasize that also, like, it's going to be somebody night every night. We don't know who night it's going to be. Whoever that night is, we're going to rock with them. And that's what we did.
How much is the strategy of you playing kind of the first guy off the bench, fourth man role this year? Was that something that you guys talked about, or just
all about matchup? The line is all about matchups, who they starting, and I just try to bring that energy and try to uplift us. If I come off the bench, if I'm on the court, I'm gonna just try to bring that energy. I know Doc told me, he's like, because last year I kind of took a backseat role. I was like, I'm gonna let Deshawn score and Jason score, but he was like, don't do that no more. Go out there, be aggressive, be you. And then this last game, I was going to be aggressive, but Jason was hot. Why not feed him?
Oh, my gosh.
I'm hot. I want somebody to feed me. So I'm like, no, you got to feed Jason. So that's kind of how we do it.
Yeah. Outside of Jason just, like, absolutely going berserk at – like, he'd been doing this since he's joined this league. The fact that he was a second-round pick in 2019 is insane. But outside of him going berserk in that second half, I felt like things really started to click. You really started to get a groove. Didn't even make sense to change like rotations, right? Like you didn't even need to bring anybody else in, close this thing out. But what was kind of the message at halftime to just kind of like make this run on a good power team and ultimately,
you knew they weren't going to give up. We was like, look, they're not going to give up. You know what I mean? And so we was like, we just got to keep all gas, no brakes. All gas, no brakes. Keep doing what we've been doing that got us this lead. And then, with how we was playing on defense, I don't want to tell everybody how we were doing our defense, but our defensive strategy has worked, and hopefully it works on other teams. But it's just all about matchups, man. I think that the lineup they put in, we kind of, gelled and worked out.
Jason is definitely the MVP candidate, MVP leader, I think, early on in the season. He was the same way last year before, I think, like you said, some things went a little sideways toward the end of the year. From your perspective, at like 42 years old, I think he's going on 43. I mean, like, what is this man doing? What is he eating? I mean, he was insane last game, and he's been doing this, but like last game looked like he was like peak mid-form season already. Like, what do you see?
I think it's more so a clear mind. He got everything going. His son's playing ball. He's out having fun coaching his sons playing ball. He's golfing. He get to see us and play with us. I think it's just all about having fun, man. When you have fun with the game, things come differently. When you're struggling with the game, you're going through problems, you can see how guys kind of taking a dive down. But I think just it's all about having fun. I think everything going right for him with his family, with his health and everything. And just that's really all I can say. Yeah, I think it's just having fun.
Yeah, just mindset. Mindset is everything.
All about the mind. You know what I mean? So if your mind is clear, I think everything else will fall into play. He a pro at the end of the day. He was, in the league, everybody know him as a dunker, but people don't really know that he was a scorer too in the league. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So kind of taking back time a little bit. Also for you, it's your third year in the league. I mean, I feel like you've adjusted really well to this league, which it was an easy adjustment for you, but you've adjusted really well to the point where now, how much do you feel like your game has evolved to the point where you understand this league well enough and you know what it takes to win a chip?
Oh yeah, it has evolved a lot, and I've also got stronger. I took initiative to try to get in the weight room more because I know these guys be trying to post. They see me as small and post, and so I've been trying to. I'm like, oh yeah, you're not posting me this year.
I mean, you've been getting them since year one though. On that, you just pull the chair on everybody.
every time. You know what I mean? So, it's good to have experience, and it's good to help these other guys. But I just think that the physicality. I think when you come into the league and you're a rookie, you have to get stronger. They let a lot of things go. So it's going to take a wear and tear on your body. So I say get stronger before you even start playing. Even though it's one game a week, it still take a toll on your body. And with the ball, adjusting to that new ball is tough for guys too. So
okay, let me hear about the new ball. Is this the same ball from last year? And it's still
yeah.
still
It's the
super
same ball from
slippery?
last year. I mean, we
Okay.
adjusting, man. It's like it's not much to complain about. It's like, hey, it's a ball and it goes in the hoop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's sweaty. The sweat hits the ball.
That's what I've been hearing. Yeah.
But other than that, it's a solid ball. I'm okay with it as long as they have a ball that we play with every game, the same ball, not have everybody warm up with it, wear it up.
Yeah.
So, but it's definitely this year, feeling good this year. It's the first time I'm, in 3 years going in 1-2 back to back, and right, that's in the past. To me, it's still 0-0 with other teams. We don't want to get happy. We just want to go one game at a time and continue to do what we're going to do.
How much is the in game? I mean, do you feel like it's even more physical this year? Because the only reason I ask this, I feel like guys who have been in this league a while are complaining just a little bit more. And I'm not saying the refs are always the best or always have their best games or whatever, but it feels like it's maybe a little bit more physical, allowing for more things to happen this year. Do you feel that way?
Yes. I mean, I feel like it's like that all 3 years I played.
Okay.
It's just guys got to adjust to it.
Mm-hmm.
Coming from other seasons, getting them, same ticky-tack calls here. A little more physical, let you, go back into the 80s and the 90s, how let you have your guide hand on the guy's back and kind of guide him, or go to the basket, you can kind of hip them up a little more. So I like it to a certain extent. Sometimes, stuff can get too out of hand and the referee's got to kind of hone it down. But I like it. It helps me, helps guys be mentally strong because getting them calls, you got to go next play. Like you can't dwell on the
Yeah. And that's kind of the point of the league and always has been. But I mean, even the tech calls are crucial in this league. So you got to be able to stay in mind with everything. I was just wondering because I felt like, I don't know, maybe it's just more physical or maybe it's just always the same. And guys are just, like you said, adjusting to where they were just playing and now coming to this league where things aren't happening like that. They're not getting those calls. They're not, I mean, a slap on the wrist when you're shooting, I feel like always should be called at some point. But like there's some things where maybe a reach here or, a wall up there isn't necessarily being called.
Right. It's a light and go either way. And I love how it's a players league. The players kind of can control who goes where. That can be good and bad. Sometimes it can be the reason why it can be bad throughout the years. Guys will pick like friends and go, hey, come on the team. But this year, I think if you look at the rosters, people trying to win.
Yeah.
Ain't no buddy. We trying to win. So that's one thing I like about it. Anybody can be, beat in any moment of time. It's just like it's all about where your chips fall.
I want you to elaborate a little bit more on the state of the league. Before I do, though, I don't know if you got a chance to see the Aliens Ghost Ballers game. Did you see Deshawn using your signature shot there?
See it. I was too busy going with family. I've seen him do it much. When he was playing 3-on-3 and somebody posted, I've seen him do it. But hey, it's not just for me. I feel like somebody would create people supposed to make it better. And I think it's better for like guys that are 6'5", 6'6", because you're taller. The guy named Jamal Franklin does it. He does it really good. But no, I didn't see it. Did he make the shot?
No, it was at the end of the shot clock. He did not make the shot. But I think it's cool that like if your signature move is going to be publicized anywhere, like to make it a staple in this big three would be pretty dope, honestly.
Right. What I mean? Yeah. But everybody confuse it. Like every time somebody shoot off 1 foot, they say it's Justin. I'm like, no. Same leg, same hand.
Yeah.
I would say that's me. Off the left foot, shooting off the right. No, I didn't create that.
Yeah, because I think Wembanyama did that in a game or something. Yeah, I'm sure you have people hitting you up about it.
Everybody, I'm like,
that's not my shot. Yeah, I feel that. Okay, let's ask about the state of the league real quick because this feels like maybe the most balanced season up to date in this year. I mean, like you said, everyone's like we've said in the past, people are like getting away from just adding their friends. They're trying to add like a complete roster, but this year even more so. I feel like people understand what they need to do, what it takes to win. Even coaches, like even Gil, like Gil is having a good time with enemies, but even him, like that's a good enemies team over there. How do you feel about the state of the league? Do you feel like this might be the most balanced season yet?
From when I started, yes, the most balanced. Because when last year, even a year before that, you had some teams like, I hope we play them. That's an easy win. Not this year. You look at the roster, like, ain't nothing easy about this this league. You know what I mean? So I think, as far as me playing, this is the most balanced Big Three season I've been a part of. Looking back at, I was a fan of it before. Looking back at it, you look at there's a lot of good big names, but a lot of those big names really wasn't in shape, kind of. Didn't take it kind of serious. I think guys now, teams better look out. And us, Tri-State, we're not looking to overlooking no team. We think every team is a good team, and we got to come and put our best foot forward. And I think that's what we've shown, and that's what we're going to try to continue to show. And we don't want to, get too satisfied. We're not satisfied.
We're
not satisfied. That game is in the past on the Triplets, which is a great team. They just beat who they beat? They beat
Trilogy,
a championship team. Really good. You know what I mean? So we got to go back to the drawing boards and just get ready for them. And I think that's the next step in block for us.
Yeah. To put it in perspective, the team that Michael Beasley's on is 0-2. One of the 4 playoff teams from last year is 0-2. Honestly, and Aliens, I know they're kind of mixed up. They're trying to bring another guy from overseas, and they're trying to figure out their roster. But even then, like last game, I was like, Ghost Saller's about to run away with this. And they're fighting. Like they made some nice additions if they figure it out. So this league, like you said, is no joke right now. I mean, who do you feel like? I mean, maybe this is tough to say because like you said, you're looking at everybody as a threat. But who do you feel like is like maybe a team that you weren't expecting, but it is like showing through 2 weeks, like, hey, maybe this is like an early threat that we might want to keep our eye on?
I can't even say on one team, bro. Like I said, it's so well balanced. Any team can be a threat. It's because it's still early. You know what I mean? So we still got a couple more weeks before we get down to 8 because I know they go to 12, then 8 and 4. So you never know, man. Like I said, last year we ran off 3 straight when Jason came back. Then we lost 3 straight. So it's like, I don't know. I think every team to us is a threat. We think that every team is in our way to get to our goal, and we're trying to make it to the playoffs. We're not looking too far ahead. Championship, no. The ultimate goal is playoffs. First is to make the top 8, then the top 4. That's we don't want to look too far ahead, man. You do that, you find yourself in a hole. You're like, dang, where did this go? And that's what happened last year with us. So we don't want that to happen. So I think every team. So right now, our threat is the Triplets. It's coming up this week. That's our threat.
I understood. Honestly, though, it had to feel good to beat Tower. They beat you twice last year. They knocked you out of the top 6 last year. I mean, it had to feel good to like not only beat them but destroy them.
Bro, I was like in the locker. I was like, look, man, I haven't beat Power since I've been here. And Jason was like, me either. I said, they are in our way. And we're not about to let them we're not about to let them beat us. You know what I mean? So we knew there was going to be a good dog fight. Unfortunately, they had some, the head bump, colliding in their huddle. And that's when we got to run away. We got to take advantage of this. Don't let them get hot. So that's what we did.
That's a team that you were almost on too, if I'm not mistaken. You had some early conversations about being on.
Yes. And also, they were trying to get Deshawn.
Everyone was trying to get Deshawn.
Everybody was. So I'm like, and it's good to, that you played with him and we built that, that kind of friendship because I would live in Denmark, level above him. We would communicate through the window. Hey, you ready to go eat? You know what I mean? So it's fun times.
So I've just to let you know, like Deshawn's name is like, I think the talk of the summer right now. I mean, in every league I talk to him, and anybody within the basketball community, anybody playing in anything right now, Deshawn's name is always coming up. Been talking to some guys from TBT coaches. They're like, people excited about him there, killing it in the Drew League, just played in the Summer League like tournament or whatever it was, that Red Bull host. I mean, nobody can stop talking about Deshawn right now.
He's a great guy though. Like off the court, he's a great person. You know what I mean? His everything clean about him. Instagram clean, goofy person. We always quote movies, me, him, and Ray. So it's fun times with us, man.
Ray's funny too. Ray's funny dude too.
Sure, we call Ray Netflix because he knows every movie.
Oh my gosh, I had no idea. That's hilarious. Last thing I want to ask you about here, you mentioned a couple of times Triplets is the ultimate threat to you guys right now, seeing as your next matchup. They're showing a little something different this year. They got the return of Joe. We just saw we've always talked about how Joe needs kind of a second fiddle, and Pargo showed that he's maybe the 1B, if anything, at this point, not even just a second option. Just dropped 31 points against Trilogy. They looked super efficient in that game. They look like they had really figured out their groove. They have your old toe captain on your team and Larry Sanders. Don't want you to give away everything and, like you said, spill the beans. But what's kind of the approach heading into this game against Triplets, which like you said, it's crucial for you being 3-0 and asserting yourself in the league.
We just got to go in this game and just do what we do, man. We haven't really went over them yet, which we will because it's early in the week. We'll go over all the X's and O's, but it's just if you look at it, it's just about who wants it more. Who's gonna come out? Both gonna come out and compete. It's gonna come down to defense, really. Stops, and who's gonna make more shots. Pargo and Joe are really good players. You got supporting cast too. You just got to slow them down. Everybody's pros. It's hard to stop somebody. It's easier to slow somebody down. You know what I mean? So I say, just go in there and do what we do, and hopefully they miss shots.
Hopefully, yeah. Deshawn's got a tough matchup. I'm sure Larry's going to come out there fired up.
Oh, for sure. He's always fired up for your whole team. Yeah, always.
Yeah. Depoy, and then Jeremy's feeling hot. 31 points. I mean, a couple 4-pointers. He's leading the league in fours. I thought that was your thing. You said that was going to be your thing.
Man. I don't know what's going on. I've been missing like crazy.
You said that was supposed to be you.
Right.
For the past couple of years, you've been saying that. Come on now.
Yeah, it's easier said than done. So now I'm
just
start doing it. Stop talking about it. Just do it.
Yeah, 100%. JD, I appreciate the time. Best of luck to you guys the rest of the year. I think you guys got a really strong team moving forward, and you got the right pieces and your experience right now. And Dr. J needs his own trophy. So hopefully,
I know, man. We've been talking about that, but I told Doc, man, we don't want to look too far ahead, man. Like I said, baby steps. You got to crawl before you walk. So that's what we're trying to do. Yeah,
100%. Best of luck against triplets. We'll see if you guys can 3-0.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
All right. That was our interview with Justin Dentmon. Appreciate you, JD, for coming on. Always been, I feel like, a pretty good friend of the show. And it's good to have some recurring guests on. I don't think we get enough of that. And obviously, that's my fault because I'm reaching out to new people and I want to make sure that we, as people in the Big Three community, listeners and audiences of the show, get a chance to be introduced to some of the new guys that are joining this league. But I feel like it's good to go back to our roots and bring on guys that we've had in the past, especially when they're having a lot of success, just to kind of catch up with them, but also talk about what's working a little bit more this year. And I felt like we got some good insight from JD there. So I appreciate it. Best of luck to everybody on Tri-State against the really good triplets team. And thank you to everybody who tuned into another episode with us. Again, make sure you're following on social media at Fourth Man Pod on, I want to say Twitter, but Elon Musk has just completely destroyed Twitter, I feel like. So I still want to do updates over there, but it will be tough. So Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, but I think Instagram is going to be a best friend at this point. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube, hit the notification bell for any other content that I might not post on social media, as well as the visual version of the show week in and week out. And thank you to everyone at Believe for continuing to give us this platform to talk about the Big Three and giving us an outlet to talk about this league that is continuing to grow and just bringing more awareness to it. We couldn't do it without you guys at Believe. And it is much appreciated each and every week. So got an interesting week 3 coming up in New York at the Barclays Center. Should be a good turnout. I'm excited to see what's going down. Just as a heads up, I'll be continuing to post on Instagram. I'll try to do a short on YouTube, but if there would not be an episode next week, I will be out of town at a very unfortunate time as we only get 8 weeks in the season. But don't worry, I'll be tapped in, locked in. I'll be continuing to post. I'll be doing my part from where I'm at. And I'll make sure to give an update. I'm going to have an update. Hopefully I already have the update out of just kind of how things have gone, like a quick recap of how things have gone already. And that'll kind of give you an idea of what I plan to do when I'm over on vacation for a couple of weeks. So it'll be a busy time over the next 2 to 3 weeks, but don't worry, I'm always prioritizing the Big Three and everybody who's tuning in and just supporting the show. Like, it's much appreciated to you guys. So I can't thank you guys enough. Can't thank the players enough, and can't thank Believe enough. So on that note, hope everyone enjoys week 3, and we'll see you guys next time.